Alright, so today I'm working on my 2016 Accord Sport. I'm doing something a bit controversial today. I know not everyone's going to agree it helps with the car or not, but I figured I'd just give it a try. If you own this car, and this one in particular is a 6-speed manual, you know that it's actually very quiet. There's no exhaust note, and once you're on the highway you can't hear the engine, you can't hear the RPM. So if you're someone who shifts gears by using your ears, it's a little bit harder to gauge when to shift gears because there's absolutely no noise coming from this car, and the interior is so well soundproof that you can't really hear the engine. Anyways, so my workaround is to remove the intake resonator off of the stock intake. I don't want to get an aftermarket intake. I don't plan on tuning this car. This is my daily. I want to keep it stock as possible, but I just want a little bit of noise out of it. So I'm going to do some testing here and let's see how it goes. So basically, to remove the intake resonator, this is your intake box. Then there's like a mid pipe, and then at the very bottom there's the intake resonator. And now some people say that, oh, if you remove the intake resonator, you are turning this into a short ram intake, and that's not true, because the intake resonator is all the way at the very bottom there. And yes, it does pull in cold air, but we're not removing this mid pipe here. This mid pipe is still going to stay intact, so it's still low enough to pull in cold air. The intake resonator does exactly what the name states. It resonates sound. So the purpose of the intake resonator is to basically subdue the intake sound. The primary use of that is not to pull cold air, it's simply to reduce sound. And you'll see when we take it out, you'll see how large this resonator is. Similar to how an exhaust resonator works, right? It's used to muffle the sound and I guess make your exhaust sound a lot quieter. So yeah. So here's a quick diagram that I put together. So we have the intake arm, you have the intake lid, you have your filter, you have the intake box, and then you have, we'll call this the mid pipe, and then you have the intake resonator. So basically, we are removing this intake resonator and we are keeping the mid pipe. So the mid pipe will still pull in cold air technically, but it will significantly increase the sound of the intake noise. Now if you were to remove this arm, then yeah, you would have a short ram intake, but we're not removing this arm, we're keeping this arm. And yeah, so that way it can stay as a OEM style cold air intake. All right, so let's go through the install and I'll do some sound clips afterwards. All right, so go ahead and jack up your car and remove the left driver's side wheel here. And we have to basically just move this fender liner out of the way. So there's a clip at the bottom here. Got a couple of clips here. You got to remove this bumper screw, and then that should give you enough room to move this out of the way, and then we can see the intake resonator. Alright, so with the fender liner out of the way, you're gonna have to pull this portion of the bumper out a bit, and then you can see there's one bolt there, and I don't see the second one, but when I find it I'll show you guys. It's a 10mm. Alright, so the second bolt's a little bit harder to get to, but if you look inside, it's right there, all the way at the back. So you're gonna need a longer extension to get that one. Alright, so I got that back bolt out. I had a helping hand hold the bumper while I got to the back there, and obviously you get this front one out, and now you should be able to just kind of pull the resonator out. There's a connection here, and there's also a connection down here. Alright, so this is how the car looks without the resonator. So you can see there's now a hole here, and there's also a hole up here. So this top tube here is still low enough to pull cold air. But yeah, let's do some sound clips and see how it sounds. All right, so first impressions, the intake sounds a lot louder. So I guess, you know, if you really wanted to, you could just get custom piping and connect this portion to this bottom portion here. Who knows, I might end up doing that. But for now, I guess I'll deal with that mid-pipe opening there. All right, let's go for a quick spin and see how it sounds on the inside. All right, so I do apologize in advance. I totally forgot to take a before video of, you know, the car with the resonator. Right now the car doesn't have the resonator. First impressions, it is a lot louder. Like, you really hear VTEC kick in now. It sounds a lot better now. You definitely hear the engine more, you hear the induction noise more, you can hear your shifts better. If you own this car, you know how quiet it is when it comes to shifting, especially on the highway. So I'm hoping to take this on the highway and see how it sounds, and you know, with the road noise and whatnot. I do hope to buy an exhaust, not an exhaust, maybe just like a muffler, maybe just change out the muffler or something. But for the time being, I think this will do. So normally cruising around, it seems like the intake noise sounds about the same, but it's when you step on it, that's when you really hear it. But I'm really surprised that you can actually hear VTEC kick in this car, which is strange. You know, it seems like VTEC kicks in around like 5,000 RPMs. And it's definitely more vocal now. Today is a very hot day. I believe it's supposed to feel like 35 degrees. Alright, let's put the AC on. It's freaking hot today. In terms of long-term problems, I don't think there would be any issue. I guess one of your concerns may be the amount of debris that comes in, and well, that's the whole purpose of your filter. So right now, that mid pipe that I mentioned earlier is sucking in air, and your filter is, well, doing the job of filtering out any debris that might also be sucked in. So what I'm gonna do is, you know, after a week or maybe 2 weeks, I'm gonna take a look at the filter, see how it is. If it's extremely dirty, then, you know, I might reinstall the resonator. But if the filter looks about the same, and it's a new filter, so if it looks about the same, then I'm not really concerned about it. But honestly, it's a very hot day today. I'm not heat soaking. It doesn't feel like the car's bogging down at the moment. I've been driving around for a couple of minutes now. So far, so good. I am going to do a full-on review of this car soon. I just got a couple more things I want to install, and then, you know, I'll do a quick review on it, because, you know, you don't really see these 6-speed sports too often. And they're pretty rare to come by. Anyways, yeah, thanks for watching. That's my video on how to uninstall the intake resonator. Honestly, I think it's kind of worth it. You get free intake in a way. It totally livens up the car, and, you know, like I said, it may be a bit controversial, but it's totally up to you to decide on whether you think it's a good idea and whether you think it's not a good idea. But honestly, I think so far I'm pretty happy with it. And yeah, let me know in the comments if you end up doing this mod. Thanks for watching.